What time is it? The name is Johns. Jesse Johns.
And I'm Trent. No Time to Die. The final Daniel Craig James Bond movie has been out. We saw it recently, and we just wanted to kind of discuss it a little bit. Jesse, why don't you go into what you think about just the James Bond character in general and leading up to No Time to Die?
It was actually Daniel Craig's first James Bond movie, Casino Royale, the one that got me into the Bond franchise. I didn't really know about the James Bond franchises until Skyfall came out when I was younger. That's when I kind of really started getting into the Bond franchise, when Skyfall came out. But my first one was Casino Royale. When Skyfall came out, I started buying the original Bonds. But I didn't buy them in order. I had to buy them like which Bond I could find in stores. I hunted for the James Bond movies for like 3 months.
Jesse, as soon as I met you, I think it was some of the first discussions that we had together. I don't know if No Time to Die was in talks yet. I think it was. I think they had a release date at that point, and you kind of influenced me to watch them up to that point so we could see the movie together. So I've been up to date with all the Daniel Craig Bonds. I've seen Dr. No, but I haven't seen anything in between that. But I have to say, the Daniel Craig series with No Time to Die has been a great journey.
And it really has. You know what's really interesting fact? I'm not sure you know the story, but apparently they slammed, when Daniel Craig took over as Bond, they slammed him for being the first blonde James Bond.
Blonde.
I never get that. I never noticed that he was actually blonde. To me, he was like light brown. So I know the character usually has a dark hair color, but I don't get the whole story there. But
James Blonde.
James Blonde.
Call him James Blonde. Who is this guy? But I really like Casino Royale. Dr. No, it kind of went out of my mind a little bit. I know back in the 60s, there were a lot more sci-fi and sci-fi weirdness. It was a whole different era entirely. But with Casino Royale, I know they were kind of going back to the realism with it, kind of influenced by like the Jason Bourne films and things like that.
I personally really like Casino Royale. It's the very first Bond movie I ever saw. It was on TV, I believe, when I saw it, because I think it came out in 05 or 06.
I think it was 06.
And if it came out in 06, I was probably like 5. So I probably did not watch it like a couple years later.
Right.
But because I was born in 01, so.
I really enjoyed the serious tone. I think Daniel Craig plays Bond really well. And based on the Bond films I've seen, he's definitely my favorite actor for the role. Granted, I've only seen the Daniel Craig Bonds. So, and Dr. No, which Dr. No is okay.
From Russia with Love and Goldfinger, they actually are in my top 10. I think Goldfinger is probably my favorite Sean Connery Bond.
You want to talk about a good beginning to James Bond? How about a good ending for James Bond? Spoiler warning for this. This won't be a trailer or an introduction. This will just be a general discussion of the movie for those who have seen it or those who are interested in it and don't care about spoilers for that matter. So what'd you think?
No Time to Die. I think it's a really good journey. We're watching it all the way through. It's really exciting. And then until the last like 5 minutes, you're like, oh no, you know.
I think it was a very different tone for James Bond. It was a very different type of movie. Even without the ending, it wasn't so much episodic as it was just a total farewell to the character.
Yeah.
No Time to Die. He's dead.
Shouldn't we change the title called Time to Die?
Yeah, he should have had more time. He had plenty of time to die.
Plenty of time.
He didn't have enough time to live.
But the ending shocked all of us, and we're like,
did it though? Did it shock you?
It really did, because I never pictured James Bond will be dead, because we're watching it. I didn't open my mouth or anything. Like you know, it's more like
I was 50-50 on it. I had the feeling that they might have killed him, but also that's just such a weird out there thing. It's to do for a character that's been around for 50, 60, 70?
No, 60 years, because next
60 years.
Oh, happy anniversary next year, it's 60th anniversary.
Leading up to his death, you get the feeling that it's going to happen. It's like a very slow burn. But then when it finally happens, you're just like, wow, they did it, you know?
Yeah. And I think this is the very first time in 60 years, close to 60 years, James Bond, Google says 007 is killed, so.
Now, speaking of 007, that name has been given to the new character
in the movie, which gave it back to James Bond at the end of No Time to Die.
It's been given to Nomi, her name was?
I can't think the actress' name. I know she played in Captain Marvel.
Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch.
What'd you think of Nomi, the new 007, for the time being anyway?
Well, I don't think she had much to do.
She didn't... I don't know if it was supposed to be like an introduction to the character. We might be getting some more of her later if they are doing a reboot, sequel, whatever. Ana de Armas. I don't feel that's necessary to make the new James Bond female, but if they were, she would be my pick.
I agree, because in the movie, she said she done 3 weeks training. And then the way she whooped those guys, I'm like, 3 weeks training? Really?
Yeah, and
Bond didn't even say 3 weeks training. Really? We're still gonna need that car. Salute, and then they both just said cheers.
Daniel Craig wanted her because of working on Knives Out together. They have great chemistry.
Yeah,
and you really feel that in the movie.
Yeah, but the Knives Out character?
Oh, Ana de Armas.
Yeah.
Her name Paloma. Paloma's her name.
Paloma. But man, Paloma, she whooped some butt in that one.
Yeah, and talking about the other 007 character, even though we said she didn't really have like a lot of time to be given her character, Ana de Armas is only in it for one scene. In that one scene that she had, we got a real sense of her character. She has great camaraderie, great chemistry with Daniel Craig, and I really enjoyed her character for the short time that she had. I think that she had more impact than the other girl. I
think she did too. In the beginning of the scene was when Bond said 00 and she said 2 years, and then she didn't say until the last part of the scene. During that scene, and towards the beginning of the movie, she said, I'm not just aiming you 00, I'm 007. And he goes, it's just a number.
Yeah. I think that they were setting up this kind of concept that the 007 could be anybody, just in case they aren't going for a strict reboot. They might be taking another character from this universe and just making them not James Bond, but 007.
Honestly, that's my biggest problem. Because look, James Bond had that number for 60-something years, and I think it shouldn't be changed to 00. I wouldn't mind, say it's related to Bond. James Bond finds out he has a kid in this one.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
If his daughter was the new 007, I wouldn't mind it, because it's still part of the Bond.
Maybe, but his daughter was really young in this movie. If they were going to make her the next James Bond, I don't think that it would be in the next movie. Maybe if they did like a time jump or something, but then they would have to reintroduce her whole character, because given how young she was in No Time to Die, we don't really know who she is. So even though it's technically the same character by name, if she was older in the next movie, it would still feel like a new person. Yeah. I like the idea of a spin-off, though. It could be like a TV show or something, because this universe, you have a lot of different types of villains. A lot of their goons always have some sort of specific character trait, whether it be Jaws or the guy in this movie. I think they call him Cyclops. Also, the villain in this movie, his name is Rami Malek. He played Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody. Right. Oscar winner.
Yeah, I was pretty excited when I found out he's going to be the next James Bond villain. I go, this is going to be interesting, because Daniel Craig and Rami Malek, that could be a good mix,
It could have been,
but unfortunately, same with Nomi's character. I feel like Rami Malek didn't have much to do.
It was really unfortunate that with this movie they had to do both introducing a whole bunch of new characters and trying to do a proper send-off to James Bond himself, because unless you have maybe a 4-hour movie, there's really not a lot of time, no time to characterize. There's really not a lot of time to devote character development to all these new characters you're introducing, and at the same time make it feel like a James Bond movie, which it should, because this is his last ride as Bond. Right.
Daniel Craig will be missed as James Bond. I mean, he was fantastic as Bond.
Oh, yeah.
And someone told me I look like Daniel Craig. I don't see how I look like Daniel Craig. I'm not sure. Is it because the hairstyle?
Jesse Blonde. James Blonde.
But no, on Facebook, posted a picture. I was trying to get out of the photo, and it looked like I was actually trying to copy off Daniel Craig post in No Time to Die.
Okay.
And then someone said,
on accident, right?
Yeah, on accident. It was on accident. Okay. I swear to God, it was on accident. I swear to God.
Well, look forward to the next movie of 007 starring Jesse Johns. The news is finally broken now.
Yeah, the news.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I'm really honored to be the next James Bond. Just kidding. I really doubt I'll be the next James Bond.
Well, this character will be going on for the next 200 years or so. So there's always a chance, right?
And we all won't survive that long. I think this franchise had a pretty good run for 60 years. I mean, I feel like it's probably goodbye to James Bond for now, but I figured what's probably going to happen since James Bond dies and No Time to Die, they'll probably have to do a reboot. I wouldn't mind seeing how James Bond became a 00,
doing like an origin story type thing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how they reboot after the Daniel Craig era, because with the Daniel Craig reboot, you had a lot of efforts to make it more realistic, more gritty, kind of like the Jason Bourne type thing. So with the new reboot, are they going to try to make it more realistic, more gritty? Or I think it could be interesting if they go a whole new direction, go back to the laser sharks and like the Austin Powers type stuff, classic, where James Bond is tied up and there's big trap and things like that.
Yeah.
That was another thing about this movie. They characterize him as like a family man, and well, you see him in the beginning. He's not 007 anymore. He's just kind of settled down, and I don't know if we've seen much of that side of James Bond before in the previous movies.
We haven't, because he's always been a 007.
Right.
I think this is the first time James Bond is in retirement, but something happens and his buddy Felix Leiter, who also did. Yeah, because I think this is the first one Felix Leiter dies too.
Yeah. See, I forgot that Felix was in the movie. There's so much in this movie.
There's so much. I mean, there's a lot of things to cover about this movie, so it's kind of hard to keep track.
So, Jesse, what do you think about the future of Bond? What would you like to see, or what do you think that they're going to do?
That's going to be a tough call on this one, because there's no Bond without James Bond, I'm not sure how the producers are going to go from James Bond from there, since this is the first time that they killed James Bond. I would not mind seeing like a 20 years later movie, not us waiting 20 years. I'll probably be 40 when the next one comes out. but no, I wouldn't mind if hey, we had another boy named James Bond or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Jimmy Bond.
Yeah, Jimmy Bond, exactly.
They had him in a closet somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably going to be a reboot.
See, that's why I think that it's a tricky call now with whether or not they're just going to keep this universe and have another character take on the 007 title, or do a whole new reboot. The way that this movie was structured, no matter what happens in the future, we're going to look back on it in a different way.
Yeah, I think this franchise had a pretty good run.
Speaking as someone who hasn't been a lifetime fan of Bond, but devoted this past couple months to kind of binging everything up to this point, starting with Casino Royale, I've really enjoyed these movies.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the same way that you have, knowing you've been a fan a long time, but yeah, I really like them.
I think Daniel Craig franchises are a good start if people have not been a Bond fan for so long.
And something I like about Daniel Craig is that he's a very versatile actor. I don't think he's in danger of being typecasted as Bond. He's had roles during his run of Bond and before where he's played a completely different character, and it's worked on talk shows and stuff like that. He seems like a really cool guy, and
and also lately he did a video with James Corden, and
I saw that.
It was hilarious.
Are you looking forward to Knives Out 2?
Knives Out, the actress who plays Polanda.
My choice for the next James Bond.
No, they both, Daniel Craig and the actress was both in the movie together. Daniel Craig, his character, he's a cop because
he's a detective.
Yeah.
It's a murder mystery. He plays a completely different character. He has he sounds like Foghorn Leghorn. He had like this really southern drawl.
Yeah, no, he was like, sound like.
He's like, this case is like a donut,
Yeah. He's like,
he literally says that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, remember, Paul, there's a lot of things.
Whoa, Daniel Craig just walk in the room up.
One last time for Daniel Craig. The name's Bond. James Bond.
I want to talk about Inglourious Bastards for a moment.
Oh.
Buongiorno.
Jesse, I know you haven't seen it.
No, I have not.
While we were watching this movie, I couldn't get it out of my head. Now, watching No Time to Die, I kept thinking of Inglourious Bastards, and I'll tell you why. In the beginning of this movie, the villain comes to the house, and he's out for murder, and he finds the young Madeline Swan, and
which is played by Léa Seydoux.
Léa Seydoux, yeah. And I'll get into that because she gets away. He chases her out of the house, and she escapes, or he saves her. Did they even make that clear, like how she got away? Because he saved her from the frozen pond, right?
That part got confusing, in my opinion.
Now, in Inglourious Bastards, Hans Landa, who is played by Christoph Waltz,
who plays Wolfo.
It's a Nazi Germany. Christoph Waltz, in that movie, he plays a Nazi who comes to a house in France looking for Jews. Now, the similarities in the scenes, Christoph Waltz shows up, he's looking for these people, and one of the girls gets away. Now, later on in that movie, he meets her again, and it's unknown if they know each other. He doesn't totally confront her. He kind of plays with her mind a little bit, but she's hoping that he doesn't remember who she is. It kind of calls back to the scene in No Time to Die where Safin becomes a psychiatric patient for Madeline Swan, and they kind of have the same confrontation there. If you watch the scenes back to back, it's kind of the same tone. And I couldn't get this out of my head because in Inglourious Bastards, you have Christoph Waltz and you have Leah Sado, who is actually in the house. She's not the girl who gets away, but that was one of her first roles. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting coincidence there.
Right.
When you think of the two movies back to back, it's very coincidental how these things play out.
Well, because I never
couldn't stop thinking about that during the movie.
I never watched that movie, so I'm about to check that movie out and see.
Just keep No Time to Die in mind when you're watching that movie.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Rating No Time to Die?
I wouldn't give it a 9 out of 10 because it was epic all the way through until the final moment that James Bond dies.
See, I think the final moment on its own works what they were going for. Now, with character development, I wasn't really impressed by the villain. The new characters, besides Ana de Armas, weren't all that exciting. Character development aside, this movie, from what I remember, from what it stands for, really works for me, so I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10.
The rates all the Daniel Craig Bonds, I give Casino Royale an 8 out of 10. Quantum of Solace is probably at least like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It's not horrible, but it's not.
It's pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
They even forgot it on James Corden whenever they had Daniel Craig on it.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was like, you missed one.
They did every movie up to that point, but they didn't do Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, the video, I think it's like 24 blockbusters in 9 minutes. Check the video. It's on YouTube with James Corden, with Daniel Craig. Skyfall, 10 out of 10. A Spectre is an 8 out of 10. And No Time to Die, I'll probably give it that one a 9 out of 10.
Spectre's at the bottom for me. I like Quantum of Solace just a little bit more. I like the setting and the action and everything. Skyfall and Casino Royale are kind of tied for the top. No Time to Die, a little bit above the middle.
What's your rating on Spectre? 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10?
Oh, my rating on Spectre? I have to give the one a 5 out of 10. It's not terrible. It's just forgettable.
It didn't have the emotional impact like Skyfall did.
I enjoyed the Dave Bautista villain. He was good. Glad they went back to the kind of like Jaws type goon, you know. Instead of him like mowing through like 50 guys, it's just one guy who's after him the whole time.
Well, cheers to Daniel Craig.
Yep. Should have had more time to live.
Trent actually bought all the Bonds just recently.
Yep. They didn't have the Daniel Craig collection, so I, shilled out a little bit and just bought all of them. So
yeah, you got a pretty good deal on it, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I got it used, but every disc was in pristine condition. Instead of like the $80 retail value, it was like $50.
Yeah, yep. you actually got a pretty good deal.
Now all I need is time. No time to watch Bond.
That's funny.
It's such a great title. I've been able to use it. Well, this has been our thoughts on No Time to Die. Tune in for the next episode of the After School Podcast. This is Trent Kelsey signing off.
Jesse Johns.
And away we go.
Goodbye.